This week, speed and scale hit endpoint protection, questions to ask yourself before you buy something, security hopes and dreams, MSSP shows promise, staying healthy and safe, and you're fired. Our topic this week is malware endpoint protection and defense. All of that and more on this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly. The teleprompter now has artificial intelligence, Doug, and updates itself. It's awesome. This week, and talk about them as it relates to enterprise security. You're going to do great.
I think that people think that you and I talk like every day at night. You know, It's like, hey, what are you doing? It's kind of a bit of an exhausting week. And I think that we noticed that a little bit in the stories for this week as well.
LogRhythm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns and application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logRhythm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. Are you worried about PCI compliance? Does your development team understand or care about security? Are you ready to face a breach of your customer sensitive data? See the worst that can happen before it does. Black Hills Information Security can help you help management see the future. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com to find out how a web application penetration test can mitigate the risk before you go live. ITProTV, an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. Stream over 2,000 hours of up-to-date, high-quality video content live and on demand. Premium annual memberships include all video content as well as access to virtual labs and the Q&A forums. You'd pay $85.70 a month or $857 per year, but we have a special offer for our listeners. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the lifetime of your active subscription, visit itpro.tv/enterprise security and use the code ES30. Welcome to episode 49 of Enterprise Security Weekly. I'm your host, Paul Asadorian, joined by Mr. John Strand on the lines via Skype. John, welcome to the show. Are you clapping because you know what TCP port 49 is?
TCP port 49? No, I don't know what the hell that is. Why should I? Is that important?
No, it's not. It's TACAX, but it's not really important. I guess
TACAX or TACAX Plus?
Either, I believe.
Either one?
Either
UDP
one.
or TCP?
I believe it is both UDP and TCP. Yes, either TCP or UDP port 49, according to Wikipedia.
There we go. But no, I'm just super excited because last week's show was just like, what the hell is going on in the community? There was hardly any good articles. We scoured, but this week we have great articles this week.
Absolutely. Before we get into those great articles, we've got a couple of quick announcements. The first, B-Sides in Uganda. B-Sides Kampala is being held October 14th through the 15th. The CFP is open until July 15th. Topics of interest include network security, web application security, innovative attack and defense, malware analysis, biometrics, and evolutionary computing robotics. Bonus points for bringing an actual robot. Visit bsideskampala.com to submit your talk today. Also, in the conference news, come check out Wild West Hack and Fest put on by Red Team specialists from Black Hills Information Security for anyone interested in information security. Join us October 27th and 28th for hands-on hardware hacking workshops and talks by famous InfoSecers like Dave Kennedy, Deviant, Egypt, Chris Nickerson, Mike Poor, Sub-T, Chris Gates, and more. Register today at Wild West Hack and Fest, HACKINFest.com. Let's see. We're going to jump right into the news, John. What do you think? You want to talk about Carbon Black? We were talking about this right before the show.
Yeah, so we had a kind of a funny Carbon Black story. So first things first, we love Carbon Black. I mean, we talked about ripping on Cylance, and there's some cool tools out there that can do some bad things to Carbon Black. But I think we both agree that the approach that Carbon Black does is really cool. Trying to do that endpoint whitelisting for applications, but also really focusing on having a high level of visibility in what goes on is neat. But it requires people to do their job and to do it right. So we like Carbon Black. It's pretty neat. So Carbon Black called me up the other day to see if I would be interested in purchasing Carbon Black, the person in the Dakotas. And I immediately flipped it around. I'm like, hey, we've got this conference, Wild West Hackin' Fest. You guys should sponsor and come hang out. And
it's like my favorite tactic whenever I get approached by a salesperson, like a cold call like that. I try and sell them something. Yeah, and they're like, "What is going on?
How did this happen? Who are these people? They're not with search security." So we kind of got it flipped around, and he shot back and he goes, "Yeah. Would it be possible for us to get a booth for free if we actually got you guys a big name speaker?" And I'm like,
I'm curious to see who they had in mind, John.
I'm going to ask Sierra to find out.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to see who that is and see who their big name speaker is. Because I'm not sure, Paul, but I think short of Bruce Schneier, we have them all.
Certainly have a great speaker lineup for Wild West Hackin' Fest.
Crazy. So, but back to the story. So as far as the story goes, we have seen Carbon Black deployed at this scale. And Paul, the question I have for you, Carbon Black comes right out last week. And they basically are like, "Welcome to the game, Cylance. And oh, by the way, here's what you got to be doing if you want to play in this arena." And then they promptly drop the mic. And then they release the Business Wire article where they're talking about scale and how speed and scale actually works with Carbon Black. And I do know that this is one of those concerns that a lot of potential customers have in regards to Cylance. Do you see this as just a continuation of shooting, not just a shot across the bow at Cylance, but basically trying to cut them off at the knees?
Yeah, no, I definitely look at this as a follow-up, as their press release is basically all about speed and scale of their product. So they say enable investigators to zoom in on one specific time frame via click and drag functions to proactively hunt threats and shut them down. And they talk about basically how it can scale to hundreds of thousands of hosts and all those things that you would expect from a very mature vendor in security targeting large enterprises. So yeah, and I definitely think that it takes time to get to that point. And certainly Carbon Black has been around long enough that they can, make announcements like this. And as you have witnessed, John, live up to some of those claims. So,
yeah, I mean, they've definitely paid their dues. They're not somebody that's just on the marketplace saying, "Yeah, we can scale to 100,000 nodes. We won't work." But I do think that they're definitely in that space, and I think they're just. I think that. Do you know if there's been any change in their marketing team at Carbon Black recently? Because it seems like it's a completely different company.
There was someone that did reach out to me from Carbon Black, and I will follow up with that person. I'm not sure where they are on the in terms of their position. I think they were a technical marketing role at Carbon Black, so it might be a good guest for the show. So.
Yep, might be a good one. So, but that kind of leads us into the next story that you had set up, the 14 questions to ask yourself before committing to a cybersecurity vendor. Where did you find this one? This is a good article. I thought this was going to be garbage, but whenever I started reading through it, it's very solid.
This came from ThreatStack, who I think I have ThreatStack socks. I think that's ThreatStack is the socks. Yes, ThreatStack.
I hear they make fantastic socks.
I don't have the socks on today. Riley and I wore them on the same day, the other day, last week, I think. And my son wore them to school on crazy dress-up day for school, too. That's how I know ThreatStack. But they did have a nice article about choosing a security vendor, and they kind of broke it down into a couple of different areas. The first one I really liked, they asked a question that, they basically say questions you should ask yourself before committing to a cybersecurity vendor. And one of the questions was, does your organization have a dedicated security team? It's a good question to qualify. I think it steers you as to which vendor you want to go with, right? If you don't have a dedicated security team, you want to lean towards some vendors that are more of the MSSP front or offer services with that. Rapid7, for example, can purchase their products as well as a services team to go along with that. If you do have a security team, you might go in a different direction, depending on which technology you're looking at.
But this whole the 4 questions to start out with is fantastic because it puts the focus on the individual. More importantly, it puts the focus on the organization and being able to answer these questions up front. And I wish it was kind of called out a little bit more in the article. You basically need to understand where you're coming from before you start buying products.
Yes.
And this is Mike Santarcangelo always talks about this. What problems are you trying to solve? And if you can't answer these questions accurately, like, do you have a dedicated security team? Do you know your objectives? Do you have policies in place? Those types of things. It doesn't matter what vendor you're going to go with. You're going to go down in flames. You got to get your own house in order first.
Well, and I like the other question, how knowledgeable and experienced are your resources? And I would further qualify that in what areas? Because I speak to a lot of folks, and in just, talking with them for about 5 minutes, you can tell they're really skilled in and have a lot of resources in one particular area. And they're asking questions about maybe a slightly different area. And you kind of say, well, you're doing that well, so stick with that. And then that guides you to help them choose like the resources they're going to need in those other areas, right? And then you kind of get into the discussion, like, where do you want to put your resources? Do you want to continue with what you're good at, probably the best case, or do you want to take some resources away from that or add more resources? So I think it's a very valid question.
And I think a lot of managers approach that question the wrong way. Whenever you're looking at resources, whenever you're looking at somebody who's a wicked smart network engineer, I think it's very easy for management to look at somebody like that and say, well, they're just really good at computery stuff. So we're going to make that person do our application security program.
No.
These skills are not, they're not interchangeable. It's not like, well, that guy's good at the computers. We'll have him secure our database. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
And I think that that's a further clarification that is important to make sure that you have an adequate skill base across multiple fronts.
Yes. Also, I think a great question that I plucked 3 or 4 questions from the 14. How experienced does a person need to be in order to run this product? And I think that's a great product fit question, right? Because you're first asking, like, if I have a dedicated security team and what are they good at? And then you're going to ask a follow-on question like, so if we get your product, how experienced does that person need to be in order to get the most value out of it? If you don't have those skills, then you're probably picking the wrong security product. And I thought that was a great qualifying question.
Well, and that whole true cost of the product is important, right? And unfortunately, I would say if you can answer the opening 4 questions, what are your skill sets? What are you planning to get out of it? I think these questions are not going to work very well for you.
Correct. Correct.
But
I mean, how many times have you seen larger product installations where you talk to the company like, yeah, we spent like a year trying to get this installed. And it like literally they were building the knowledge and experience after they bought the product. And that product like claims to solve all of your problems, obviously. And coming out of that, so many organizations are like, yeah, we need to go in a different direction, or we need to buy more products to fill the gaps of that other product that we spent a lot of money on and spent all that time getting training on, and it really only solved like a couple of problems. So I see that as a major pitfall that organizations fall into.
And it's fascinating to me how many articles we do on this show that are created by marketing directors. Like this one is by Natalie Walsh. And it's fantastic for kind of setting the stage. And what's interesting is usually these people come up with these great articles and the questions that should be asked. But sometimes you wonder with some of these vendors, does this become a double-edged sword? Like I almost wonder sometimes, like let's say hypothetically the stability thing. I don't know threat stack that much at all. But let's say that their product was very inherently unstable. And people are like, no, I can't believe you put that in. No, we don't want people to think about that at all. It's like Arcsite, total cost of ownership. Don't ever say that.
Yeah. Well, that was the product I was referencing in my previous spiel on that, right? But I also think one of the most important, and I purposely put it like last on my short list from the 14, asking how will this product help you differentiate between day-to-day activity and actual problems. And this is the struggle that's so real in so many organizations is the complaint that I get is, well, yeah, I get a lot of alerts from it, but like 90% of them like are false positives or whatever, right? And I think this is an important qualifying question before you go in to get a feel for, and of course the vendor has to be honest, or you have to do some kind of test, I think, to get the right answer or a correct answer to this question. But it's a huge problem today, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I look at this in light of our own product, John, from offensive countermeasures, right?
Well,
We're really honing in on solving the actual problem, right? And I feel like that's one of the things that we've really taken to heart in trying to bring our product to market and solve actual problems has been the mantra for us, which I think you and I both share that vision of that's like really important, right? Having been in the trenches and been in that situation too, right?
But we also have an uphill battle. I mean, whenever we're looking at what we're doing, we don't want to talk about it too much. What we're trying to do is provide products that give better information to people who make decisions. And that's going to be a tough sell because if you look at a lot of the products that we bring on the show that we talk about, single pane of glass, that's the silver bullet, unified security, automating security. Security is easy. Security is easy. Security is easy. And we both know that security is hard and we want to make it suck a little less for people. And that's a tough sell. It really, really is. It's easier to sell snake oil than it is to actually sell people diet and exercise.
Right. It's true. So what was this one from this? Oh, this was from Contrast Security.
What the hell?
It's a product, largely a product pitch. Contrast makes a great product. But they had this like spiel in the middle, John, that was just, I thought it was awesome. They said until recently, we knew next to nothing about security state inside a running application, unless developers built in custom logging. I largely agree with that statement. Without security visibility, security pros would typically hope for the following things. Hope the developers wrote secure code, harden the platform, the OS, the container, whatever, that the application's running on, and hope nothing gets through. Deploy an edge device like an IPS or WAF and hope they're blocking suspicious traffic. Hope your SOC finds the attack in time. Hope your incident response team can respond effectively. And hope you have talented enough software engineering resources and the appropriate amount, I'll add, to fix exploited vulnerabilities in code. I think that's a pretty accurate summary of where a lot of us are in security today, hoping and dreaming. And I think there are newer technologies, such as Contra on the application front, Signal Sciences, for example, that can certainly help make it an actual reality and not just like hopes and dreams.
Yeah. Now this one, I love that section. As soon as you said there was something awesome in the middle, I was like, it's the hope section. I knew exactly what you're talking about, but I still don't know what the hell Contrast Security does. It sounds like they're doing application security monitoring because that's everywhere in here, but what are they monitoring? They're monitoring Java? Are they monitoring .NET? Are they hooking into the logs? Are they going in front of the application? Are they kind of like a glorified a web application firewall? Are they on the back-end database? Are they actually hooking into it in memory? What are they doing here?
Sure. Well, I didn't get that from the article. I happen to know what they do. They do support Java and .NET, and they hook into the application layer as a RASP. And that's kind of like their claim to fame. They basically live inside the application or the application server. They can look at the object code and basically tell you, like, here's a vulnerability, here's someone trying to exploit a vulnerability, and by the way, here's like the exact point in the code where that happens.
So they
that's
must
kind
be
of the heart
hooking
and soul
into
of RASP.
They must be hooking into the debug functions that are inherently built into these frameworks then. That's cool. But that should be in this article, right?
It should. Yeah, absolutely.
Should be in here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was a higher level, marketing piece, but, certainly it leaves readers like you, John, like begging, so what exactly do they do? And how does it work? And Contrast has kind of a different take. They've kind of built their own little corner of RASP as well. But I think it's a technology. There are other vendors aside from Contrast, but I think it's a technology people should definitely consider. I also think newer ones, Immunio and Signal Sciences, kind of fall in that newer category. Veracode, of course, has always done great things. So, there's a lot of options now for application security. I think what I got from a lot of the hope and dream section is if you're looking at providing security for the OS and using an IPS or WAF, you're missing out by not looking at a lot of this newer technology.
Well, and this is a tough space for a vendor to enter, right? If you're looking at operating system security, if you're writing something that secures Windows systems, basically the entire world is your prospective marketplace. Whenever you're talking about actually hooking into .NET, ASP, PHP applications or whatever it is that you're looking to hook into, the amount of marketing space that you have as a vendor has just been shrunk dynamically or dramatically. Sorry. So that makes it a very difficult sell. And, I always get excited whenever we see vendors like this. And you talk about Signal Science. I think by far they were one of the best interviews we've ever had on this show. You got to give those guys a lot of props for trying to step into that ring, because they're not trying to sell to the lowest common denominator. They're trying to actually solve a really hard problem in security, which is all these custom apps.
Absolutely. Malwarebytes is furthering their play into the enterprise. They've recently announced an expanded enterprise, or actually a brand new enterprise cloud platform for their endpoint protection, which they're touting as a replacement for antivirus, which I think a lot of us kind of thought of Malwarebytes as an antivirus company, but again, positioning themselves in that crowded endpoint protection space, which we're going to talk about in the next segment as well. They do say that their solution, now delivered as a service by the platform, features a signatureless anomaly detection engine powered by machine learning. Of course, you got to put that in there. They say they're combining 7 protection layers in this new Malwarebytes solution, is more effective and efficient replacement for antivirus.
And if this was Security Weekly, we, just so everyone knows, we would be making a joke right now about 7 layers of protection, but we're not, because this is the responsible part of the Security Weekly family.
This is the responsible adult show.
This is the responsible adult show. People listen to us on the way to work.
That's right. There could be other
with their kids in the car. Hi, kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
Listen to what mommy and daddy says.
So this is interesting. I mean, Malwarebytes is one of those vendors that's definitely a scrappy up-and-comer. If you look at a lot of the if you look at Symantec, you look at McAfee, a lot of those large cash cows, they're making money hand over fist. They don't have to try. And if you're looking at even like Cylance or Carbon Black or Malwarebytes, they have to dislodge an existing vendor. And that is always difficult. And we've noticed that a lot of these kind of dislodged, disruptive vendors, they tend to have a better product. And Malwarebytes is one of the products that generally does better than the old stodgy ones. I'm a little bit interested. They kind of are hedging their bet a little bit with the anomaly detection and machine learning at the same time, kind of pulling those two things together, because just from reading this, I think they want to say that anomaly detection and machine learning is part of what they do, but they don't want to say it's everything that they do.
Right. Yeah.
And
they want to leave you guessing. It left me guessing, what are those 7 layers of protection actually doing? And how do you deploy that and still have performance and uptime and things of that nature?
It's cheese. It's mayonnaise.
Yeah.
It's peas, shredded cabbage, more cheese, some lettuce, and then, celery. Those are usually the 7 layers.
Yes.
We're looking at the 7-layer protection salad.
But I think they're trying to, like you said, differentiate themselves in the market, talking about the 7 protection layers. But again, I'm interested in more details. Like, what is that? That could actually be something good. I mean, let's not discount them. Right?
Oh, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it is actually a good thing. And this is kind of what's happening right now with Carbon Black. Like, let's just put Cylance on the table because they're always there. Malwarebytes is trying to differentiate themselves by saying they provide that artificial intelligence kind of heart, but then they have a bunch of other things. Carbon Black is like, welcome to the game, Cylance. We're doing all of these other things, and if you want to play, you got to play on this level. And what I think that they're doing, and I think that their marketing departments are doing a fantastic job, is they're creating a further separation and saying that when we're talking about endpoint security, it's far more than just machine learning and anomaly detection and artificial intelligence. There's a lot more that goes into it. It's like you love Mad Men. You're always like sharing with me whenever I sit down and sit with you. You're like, oh, you got to see the scene from Mad Men. And it's like what's the scene where he's trying to come up how to sell cigarettes, right? He's talking about, what do we actually do? Well, we actually take the tobacco and we dry it, and it's like, it's sun-dried tobacco. He's like, everybody does that. But no, you're going to market that as something awesome. And what you're seeing now is like a lot of these large AV vendors or endpoint security vendors are starting to highlight all the crap that they've been doing for a long time and almost repackaging it as something new, and then being able to say, oh, yeah, that Cylance guy, we do that in addition to these other 6 layers of protection.
Right. No, that's some great analysis.
That's a great approach, too.
This next one's kind of interesting. LockPath released Keylight 4.7, and perhaps you haven't considered
is this?
In your GRC program, their Keylight's Health and Safety Manager helps organizations strengthen workplace safety, encourage workplace safety collaboration, and meet regulatory compliance obligations. That's right. They want to make sure you don't trip on that cable when you're doing incident response, John. This is important.
You got to have that.
You got to have that.
I can't tell you how many times I've tripped while doing incident response.
It's dangerous job. It's dangerous job.
Drinking coffee, carrying a donut, and my notebook computer under my arm.
That's right.
I'm not thinking. It's a good thing, Paul. It's a damn good thing that I had LockPath.
That's right. You have to manage your healthcare and workplace safety as part of your GRC. I didn't know that was a thing.
Just completely missed that
until now.
I didn't even know I needed that. So,
anyway, Hexite. This is very interesting. Last week, of course, Microsoft confirmed plans to acquire Hexite for around $100 million. On the same day, the cybersecurity startup laid off all of its U.S.-based workforce, according to sources familiar with the matter. To make matters worse, VentureBeat has learned that all affected employees were informed of their layoffs by telephone, offered just 2 weeks severance, and no shares were forward vested. Wow. And in the article as well, they say some people left very well-paying jobs in security, most likely, to come to Hexite only to be fired with 2 weeks severance, which sucks.
So I was joking with the guys before the show started. If you go to the Hexite website, Paul, if you have a chance, just go to hexite.com.
Okay.
Just go to Hexite and let me know whenever you get the website loading. And if you're listening to this show, you should do likewise. Let's all go to hexite.com. Go to their website. We're going to drive click ads apparently to Hexite, but we at Enterprise Security Weekly don't know how the hell this is done. So we're just going to
it makes me kind of nauseous with that graphic in the background.
So you see all those people, Paul?
Yeah.
All those people in the background?
They're all fired.
There anymore. They're all fired. None of those people. These people have employment, they have jobs, they're working hard, but not here. Not at Hexite, not today.
It is for those listening. When you go to their website, in the background, it's actually a pretty amazing website that does this. There's like video of all of the employees working. It's a pretty long video as well. They're all talking on the phone, meeting with each other.
If you make it about 2 minutes in, they have a great big wall of all the Hexite employees.
I saw that. They're all fired.
And then they do have some people in the Israeli office. Apparently, they didn't fire the people in the Israeli office. So maybe some of these videos are from the Israeli office. So maybe not all of these people are fired. Maybe it's just most of them.
Entertaining, nonetheless. And I feel bad for the Hexite employees. That really sucks.
No. Well, okay. So if you're looking, Microsoft and Hexite don't care because the people at Hexite, they got their $100 million. They're like, I'm rich, bitch, and they're gone. But if you are looking to actually implement a product like that in the United States and you know that they liquidated their entire workforce, that really will cause you to pause before you actually sink into it. But in this situation, who cares, right? It's not like Hexite is going to be direct to market for very much longer. It's going to be rolled into Microsoft.
Right.
It's not that they need a sales team because they have Microsoft sales team. And the question I have for you, Paul, do you think this was a Hexite call or do you think this was a Microsoft call?
I mean, if I had to speculate, it was probably something agreed upon, most likely late in the game. If I had to venture a guess, and I could be completely wrong, but just hypothetically speaking, let me play out like Hollywood movie style plot for this, right? Microsoft comes to Hexite, says, hey, we want to give you some money for your company. Hexite's like, okay, that's how much you want to give? $100 million. Oh my God, $100 million. Like Dave Chappelle reference, I'm rich, bitch, right? And they get through the process and they're like, here's what it's going to look like. And Hexite's really pumped about it. They're like, this is the right decision for us. Microsoft's saying all the right things. And towards the end of those negotiations, Microsoft comes in and says, yeah, and you know what? You're going to have to get rid of everyone in the U.S. And at that point, I would venture to guess that Hexite people, being good people, I'm assuming, because I love everyone from Israel. I think they're all wonderful people. And everyone in security, and outside of security I meet from Israel, it's just wonderful people. They're probably like, well, that really sucks. But, you know, we've gotten to this point in the deal, and we're just going to have to make those hard business decisions. I don't fault them for that, and my guess is that's probably how it played out.
Yeah, more than likely. I would see Microsoft saying, we want the R&D, we want the tech, we want the people at the core. We really don't care about your marketing and sales team at all at this point. And there's no value if you're Microsoft. And I know that that's cold, but if you're Microsoft, why would you continue to have those people on? I mean, I do think it's abrupt. I think saying, hey, you're fired, you have 2 weeks is crap.
It's abrupt. I mean, that was part, like I said, probably part of the agreement. But, you know, I'm hopeful those people will find jobs, certainly.
Oh, in Boston, in that area? Yeah, they should be just fine.
Hey, and if you're looking for a job, reach out. We'll help connect you. How about that? Reach out to me on LinkedIn. We'll help connect you.
Yeah, we can help. We can hit them on the Security Weekly mailing list and basically be like, hey, here's a security person worked at Hexite, got completely screwed over. Give the guy a shot. We can do that.
Absolutely. All right. With that, we're going to take a short break, come back, and continue some discussions on malware endpoint defense.